This preview feature is sponsored by Talent Digital.
With a release date to be announced but expected soon, on Steam, by developer and publisher Talent Digital, we've got Pecking Order, a PvP experience that I can confidently say is like no other I've experienced. By definition, Pecking Order is a hierarchy among a group of people, classes, or nations, or the social hierarchy in a flock of domestic fowl in which each bird pecks subordinate birds and submits to being pecked by dominant birds. And here, in Pecking Order, both definitions hold up, thanks to the developer for the beta invite. Concept, loop, and mechanics. So far from what I have experienced in the beta test, which I have reason to believe is all subject to many changes, adjustments, additions, and improvements, is pretty straightforward. You play a game of extraction. It's worms versus birds. As an alien worm, your job is to charge up generators by throwing berries through their loops. These berries can also be used for defending against the birds. Charge them up to throw them and temporarily stun these birds. I believe there's also more to these berries. Various berries, some that also explode, and of course, by release, the variety may grow. Once the generators are charged, a timer goes off, indicated by a bar at the top of the screen, signaling the coming of the mothership. Once the mothership arrives, it's your task to survive long enough to get beamed up. The more worms that get extracted, the better. But if even one worm gets extracted, the worms win the round. To get a successful extraction, you may want to head straight to the extraction site once you've been notified that the ship is inbound. Then camp out. I noticed that the birds don't seem to start flocking the extraction point too early. It's like most bird players don't start to pay attention to the extraction point until the clock gets real close to the final seconds. Of course, these are real people playing, so that will change. I guess it's because everyone was new to the experience. This worked for me, however. Later, when people start to catch on, you may have to go for a more offensive and team-based approach, like having your berries stocked up so you can knock some birds out while others extract. But like I said, if even one worm gets extracted, the worms win. This may change, however, as the design does give the worms a potentially unfair advantage. As a matter of fact, I doubt it's just me, but I found playing as the worms a whole lot better and advantageous. While the birds have flight, the worms are agile, small, and easy to hide, with a forgiving stamina system. There's also this shadow-like indicator that warns worms when a bird is closing in or in close proximity. If you get caught by a bird, you're given the option of a rapid minigame to escape its beaks. If you don't in time, you become bird food and somehow also become a bird. Now you're batting for the other team. Worms who were once your allies are now your prey. This brings me to the birds. As a bird, your primary objective is to stop the worm's extraction by any means possible. You can eat their berries, you can peck at their generators so they fall offline, and of course, you can grab worms and take them back to your nest to feed young birds, which I guess grow up real fast, hence the transformation of worms to birds. Once the mothership count has started, you can either find as many worms as you can around the map, or go camp out at the extraction point and grab them there. I suppose logic dictates that the reason many bird players don't camp out and wait at extraction is because once those speedy little worms get close to the extraction point, there's a very small window, very little room for error. They could slip through easily. You can fly. So this is an obvious advantage. You can take the high ground and scope out the map for worms and then swoop in and peck them up. Unfortunately, for the sake of balanced gameplay, this is easier said than done. There are also stage hazards for all. Lava and water comes to mind. Once you manage to nab a worm, you need to take it back to the nest, but like I said, there's a mini game going on. If the worm hits the marks in time, you lose out, the worm will get free, and you'll have to go on the hunt again. Other than stage hazards, there are also trampoline-like devices that allows the worms to get to higher ground if needed. The overall gameplay loop and the design is quite good. Well done, it does what is needed. Creates an experience that's easy to pick up and play, but hard to put down. Once you get started, once you figure out the loop, the do's and don'ts, you may be immersed for hours. When I started this up, I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do, and I simply glanced over the instructions. I'm more a sink or swim, whistle while you work, learn on the job kind of player, so that was on me. But you should spend some time reading the instructions. It serves for a smoother start. If you're more practical over theory like me, then just like me, you'll end up having to learn everything the hard way. On the surface, just looking at the title's box art, you may think, nah, not for me. But I assure you, once you give it a chance, it can quickly grow on you. It's one of those experiences that just work. And like I said, this was just a beta test. There should be a whole lot more to this experience by launch. More maps, more modes, more abilities, and power-ups. The core mechanics and concept, where you'll be on the same team at the start, but hunting down your friends by mid-game. The Mad Rush, which also requires strategy to charge up the generators or shut them down. The Survive for extraction or sabotage said extraction is enough to keep players entertained. So imagine the full experience. Where visuals are concerned, the visuals are ideal for what it is. Beautiful, cartoon-styled aesthetics. The maps are colorful and bursting with vibrance. The characters, for what they are also well designed, and there are options to customize the look of your bird and worm. Another element I suspect will be expanded on as well. Over in sound, the music and sound effects fit like a glove and further enhances the experience. Not much voice acting so far, but the worms do have a few sounds and one-liners. So prepare for up to 16-player PvP matches with up to parties of 4, with 2 very different roles, with very unique approaches to each, leaving you with a chaotic, hilarious, relatively new approach to the multiplayer PvP extraction genre. And if we get more modes like, let's say, Capture the Flag, Domination, and even Team Deathmatch, that would up the value of an already great experience. Get ready to power up or destroy generators, take sides with, then probably turn on your friends in quick, frantic matches with little downtime in Pecking Order soon. Look out for more on Pecking Order from the Lab Video Game TV as we get closer to launch.